Okay, I just want to go over a few things here with the shape layers. When you guys are animating, if you're trying to deform your shape layers, there's something I maybe sort of glossed over in the beginning, earlier on in the semester. So I just want to make sure that that is covered here. So I'm going to go through that real quick. So if we do a new comp, and whatever that is, I'm going to do 1280 by 720. And I'm going to go ahead and just give us a little gray thing so we're not just staring at black. Now I'm going to create a shape layer. Now, one of the things, if we go to our shape layer tool, so let's say we're going to just do a rectangle. Up here, there's a little checkbox that says Bezier path. Now, if you click this, when you create your shape layer, it will create it so it's sort of edited down into a Bezier path. And then you have some settings where you can animate your individual vector points. So if you're not doing that, then you might have some trouble moving things around. So I'm going to quickly draw a little vector shape here. And if I extend this out some so it stays in. And now I'll go ahead and take that and just make sure my shape layer, I'll use my pan behind tool just to make sure my anchor point is right there. So that's perfect. And if I go into this and I go down to my rectangle path 1, you'll see here I have a path. Now if I do the same thing, if I click on this, turn off Bezier path up here, and I draw my shape. Oh, I'm going to undo this. See what happened there? I was drawing in that same shape layer. So deselect everything, make sure that's unselected. And now if I draw one, okay, and I'll go to my pan behind tool. So select that new shape layer 2. And if we pan behind, lock that one in. And now if I roll down on this one, we'll see that if we go under path, we've got size, position, and roundness. So you could animate all of these together, but you can't get into the points because it's generating this on the fly using these coordinates, okay, the size. So for getting in and altering the points, you need to use either the Bezier. So let me get my arrow key here by hitting V. So if you use the Bezier option, you can then get this one down here where we have the path. And with the path, if I click on that, now you can see I could grab individual points and move those. And path is basically just saving the shape of every time you would move it. All right, so if I set a keyframe here on path, turned on the animation, and then move forward in time, and then just move this one back, or maybe move this one up. Oops. Undo. And then clicked off. Again, we've got to be on our path. I probably was on the shape layer. And then we can select this guy, move this one up, and it'll set another keyframe. So now we'll have that option, so you can see things animating that way. With the one that's not Bezier, when we go to that one, this shape layer 2, that one, if we go down here, we're kind of stuck, but we can right click and say convert to Bezier path. Then you'll see our path now just has path. And now we can grab those corners, or you can grab an edge. So again, just always make sure you have your path selected. And then we can come in here and say grab the top and just shift up arrow a couple times to make it grow. Slide it over a little. And again, animate that same thing. So for an example of how you might use this in an animation, I'll go ahead and delete these two shape layers. Actually, I'll do a new comp. Let's just do a new comp. And we'll do that. And we'll animate a little guy sort of scooting along maybe. So, and this is where you could get into more of a Bezier curve on these too. So I'll show you that on this one. So we do another shape layer, rectangle tool. I'm going to go ahead and hit Bezier path because I know I'm going to change its shape. And we'll just draw it. And now if I go over here, go to my rectangle, go to my path, we can see we have that option. So maybe we're going to have him, let's make sure our anchor point is where we want it to be. So again, pan behind tool, lock it into the center, back to our move tool, back to our path. Now I'll click on that guy, scoosh him over here, and let's do another solid. I'm going to do a solid layer real quick, new solid, and that'll be fine, okay. And I'm just going to grab that guy, shrink him down, and put him down here on the ground. So that'll be our ground layer. Maybe. There we go. Okay. So that's kind of our little ground for our guy to slide along. So if he was going to take off, maybe we've got him at 1 second now. So let's take these two and we'll maybe go 2 seconds. Put my time marker there and then again hit in to bring my work area down to that zone. And we'll go back and say, all right, let's have this guy shoot down the block. So maybe about right here, we'll set a position keyframe in the main transform, or we could do it on the transform rectangle, either one. But I'm going to do it on the main transform because I don't plan on putting any more shapes in here. And I just set keyframes for both, just on that one. All right, there we go. So we got a position keyframe, and then I'm going to move forward in time. And we know at the end we want him to be, I'm just holding shift down to stick him to the ground, and maybe he'll be here. All right, so if we were doing just a normal move, that's not very exciting. So let me move this guy forward. So maybe we want him to shoot within a second. So now let's see what we got. Okay, that's a little better, a little more exciting. So if we're thinking about maybe that idea of, exaggeration or overshoot or anticipation, what we could do is get in here and say, all right, well, he's going to maybe rev up a little, or maybe when he's moving, he's going to lean back. So let's say he starts off and maybe about here, so we'll go forward a frame. And maybe about there, we will go into his path, right? And we'll animate that. And let's go ahead and go back to our previous keyframe and animate him there too, just so we've got a start one. So maybe about here, we'll take this up here as top too. I'm just going to use shift and my right arrow key and lean him back a little. And let's see what that does. So he's moving forward. So now it's like his feet start to move a little ahead of him, right? And then when he gets here, he's going to probably overshoot a little bit. So we can shift left arrow for 10 pixels and then another, maybe, wouldn't be 10. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 maybe. And make sure we're on our path here. We got that keyframe. And then we'll go forward a little bit. And then we'll 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is straight up. And then maybe 2, 3. And then we'll come back over a little bit more, move our time, and then bring him back 1, 2, 3 to the beginning. So let's see how that is. And we can adjust our timing after. So now, there he is. All right, a nice little settle. And so maybe these guys need to be a little tighter. So we could always grab these two and nudge them in a little bit. And maybe this last one, even a little bit closer. Oops, sorry about that. All right, let's see how that guy looks. Okay, so you can see what's happening is somehow I didn't set a keyframe. When I set my keyframe here, I went forward. So we need to set another, where's he stop? He stops at that position right there. I need to set a keyframe with him still with the top two leaning back. So I forgot to do that one. So I can go here, make sure I'm on my path, select those two, and we did, I think it was shift, right? So 10 that way. And so now let's try it out. And I think these are a little closer, and they need to be a little closer. So maybe there. Again, these two a little closer still. All right, let's try that. Okay, so I think that's an example there. Now, if you wanted to do an anticipation, maybe he would, what would happen there? So maybe he wouldn't really lean back to get ready to go. Maybe the bottom would go, or maybe his whole body would go. So let's try that one. So let's see if we do a little anticipation back, maybe right before. So I'm going to take my position keyframe here, and let's copy this first one, and then move my playhead to the beginning, and I'm going to paste it, Control V. And then we can see right there, we want that to move up a little. Actually, we can just do that one right there, can't we? And then let's just move them back a little. So let's just maybe 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's try that, see what that looks like. Did that do anything? So there we're at 4. So let's do, oh, we need our first keyframe. That's why I'm not with it today. So I'm copying my static one. I don't know why I moved that away. All right, so there we go. So maybe there, a little lean back. And you could probably even, when he comes back here, so when he gets that rev up, so maybe even there is when he starts to transform his -10. So let's see what that looks like. It's a little better, so maybe this guy could come forward a little bit. All right, so we're getting a little feel there. So he's moving back, then it starts pulling the top back, then his bottom shoots him along, and then he overshoots. Okay, so that could be one thing there. If you were going to get into, say, a little bend on this guy instead of just the straight ahead, then what you could do, let's just create another little layer here. I want to make sure I'm not on anything selected. New shape layer, Bezier is on. There we go, new fresh shape layer. So if this guy's coming in, we could do a couple things with this too. If we know he is just going to come down and land, we're going to want his anchor point to be at the bottom. So if he squashes, that everything will squash down to that. So because we have it in the center, he'll squash from the middle and the top and the bottom will both squash, and then that won't be great. So what we're going to do is just make sure our shape layer is selected. So this one, let me roll this up, and this will be our slide. And then this one here will be sort of our squash. All right, so we've got that guy selected. We're going to move our anchor point over. Make sure it's in the center. Okay, got him locked in. Go back to our move tool, and then we'll bring this guy down. So let me see, he's sliding way over into there. All right, so that'll be fine. Let's me start this guy over here then. So he'll be sort of out of the way. All right, so I'm gonna maybe extend this a little, so that'll be fine. So maybe here, we're coming in, and after that happens, then let's bring in this little guy, and we will get him up here somewhere, out of the path, and then we'll bring him down. So set a position keyframe for him. And we could do it here in the rectangle. So transform rectangle position. And we'll move forward a little bit. And maybe this will be where he hits the ground. Now, I did not do what I had said I was going to do and put the anchor point on in his center. So let me do that again. So grab the entire shape layer, undo that. All right. We're going to start him at the top. We've got his center point we're going to make sure is down at the bottom. Boom. And now let's set, we'll go back here in time after this guy's out of the way, and we'll start him falling there. And we'll go down to our transform position, turn that baby on, and then maybe here, maybe we'll have him hit about the same time. So he's going to come down, hit our ground layer. Okay. And we'll just won't do a bounce. We'll just have him squash and end there. So that'll be our position. So that's on our layer. So here we've got this guy. Boom, boom. All right. So that's a gentle fall, so it won't be too much of a squash. Now there's a couple ways we could do it. So I'm actually going to duplicate this guy. Control D. And maybe, let's see if we can move him over. Let's take this one, so squash 2. And let me go to that first keyframe. And we'll move him over some. Oops. And then we'll do our next one, position. And we'll move him over here so he lines up. All right. So now we should have our 2 coming in. All right. So if we've got that happen, now let's look at the first one first. So we are going to look at squash 1. So with squash 1, we're just going to do a simple squash with the scale. So once he hits, boom, he's going to get squash a little bit. So we could just go into its scale on the Y. So uncheck your link. On the Y, he would scale a little. It's not a crazy fall, so maybe he would scale just a little bit like that. And then on the X, he would spread out a little. All right, so we're like 120 by 78. And let's set that scale. Let me go back to here. Where does he hit? He hits there, right? So I didn't set my first keyframe to 100 and 100. We could give him a little stretch coming down. Maybe we will. And so right here he lands, right? Little squash. Then let's bring it back up a little bit over 100, so maybe a 105. And maybe 95. No, let's see. So X, Y. Sorry, 105 in the Y and 95 in our X, just so it gets a little taller. And then we can go forward a little bit. And then let's just give them that 100, 100. Boom. So let's see what that looks like. We'll have to retime it, but that's okay. There we go. So he's just a simple squash. So he comes in, and maybe that all needs to happen a little faster. So here, let's grab all 3 of these, move them forward a little. And then let's just grab these 2, nudge them in. And this one here at the end, we'll nudge him in just a little bit too. Let's see how that works. All right, so we've got a simple little squash there, right? Little bounce, little squash and stretch. Now, if you wanted to get a little fancier, let's try this one. On squash 2, rectangle 1, let's get to his path. All right. And with this one, what we can do is let's click that one on the path, and let's go to our Add Points tool. So just like Illustrator here, we've got our pen tool, we've got Add Vertex. So we can come over here and let's add a vertex there. I'm going to click and drag a little bit. And then I'm going to add a vertex here and click and drag. And now we've got our 2 points. So now what we can do on this one, we will, same thing, bring him down. So there's the hit. So we'll want to add a path, keyframe. That's our original path. Then let's just follow this same scaling here. So what we could do, I'm just going to zoom in. And then maybe we could go, all right, that would be sort of that. I'm going to grab these 2 and nudge them down, let's say a few keyframes. Then we will take these 2 and we could scale them out a little. Well, I guess we'll do each one. So take that one. Am I on my path? There we go. This guy, and let's pull him out. This guy, let's pull him out. Oh, I think I'm the wrong way on this one. There we go. Pulled the wrong way when I opened it up. And then we could take these 2 and sort of nudge them down so we're getting more of a little equal stretch or squash. All right, and then we could go forward. So now we go forward to that next, which is a little taller. So we'll just use that as a guide. So we can take these. Actually, yep. Somewhere right about there. Take these guys in. Now what we could do is maybe just bring them both each in. Oh, lost my path. Grab one. Maybe we get a little curve in on that, right? And then we take this one. We'll curve in. And let's bring them both back up. And then we go back to our next keyframe. And then we're back to normal. Now there's not an easy way I know of to get, like to reset it to where it was. But what we can do is take this first one, right? Since we knew that was it, copy that keyframe, move forward to where it comes back to normal. Right there. And paste it. And now we've got our normal shape back. So now let's see how this one looks. We might have to retime it, but I think we should be okay since we used the other one. So we've got our slide. So you can see just by turning those into Beziers how you can get a nice little more realistic bounce. So it just depends on the feel. That one obviously is a more of a jellyish thing perhaps, or something there. And again, we could stretch these out as they fall. But hopefully that'll help you guys out. And I apologize if I didn't make it clearer on the Bezier option when you're doing your shape layers. So just remember that's up here when you're doing a shape layer, Bezier on or off. If you want to use all the shape layer, some of those options, you want that in there. But you still have your stroke and your fill and all of that stuff that you can animate in the even in the Bezier path option. All right, I hope that helps, and have a great Memorial Day weekend. See you guys later.